$100,000 in net worth growth in 12 months starting from zero savings. I want to be precise about what that means before anything else, because the framing matters enormously for whether what follows is useful to you or just another piece of aspirational content that sounds compelling and produces nothing. This is not a promise. It is not a guarantee. It is not a story about someone who got lucky with a cryptocurrency trade or inherited money from a relative or stumbled into a business opportunity that most people will never have access to. It is a mathematical framework built on decisions that are available to a specific category of person, and I'm going to be explicit about who that person is and what the realistic numbers look like for different income levels, so that you can evaluate honestly whether this framework is applicable to your situation right now or whether it describes a destination you are building toward over a longer horizon. Here is who this framework is designed for. Someone who has a stable income, whether from employment or self-employment, of at least $50,000 per year. Someone who currently has minimal savings, possibly some debt, and has not been intentional about wealth building up to this point. Someone who is willing to make significant and sustained changes to their financial behavior for 12 consecutive months without abandoning the framework when it becomes uncomfortable, which it will. And someone who understands that the word zero in this context means zero savings and zero intentional wealth building system, not zero income. If that description fits your current situation, what follows is a specific sequence plan. If your income is below $50,000, the framework still applies, but the timeline extends. The sequence is the same. The math is slower, but the destination is the same. The journey just takes longer. Let us start with the single most important concept in this entire framework, because everything else depends on understanding it correctly. The order of operations in personal finance is not arbitrary. There's a specific sequence of financial decisions that maximizes the efficiency of every dollar you earn. And departing from that sequence, even with good intentions, costs you real money in the form of taxes paid unnecessarily, interest accumulated on high-cost debt, while lower yield savings sit untouched, and tax-advantaged contribution room that expires at the end of each calendar year and can never be reclaimed. Most people do not follow this sequence because nobody taught it to them explicitly. They save when they remember to, invest when they feel confident about the market, pay off debt when the balance bothers them, and make financial decisions reactively rather than according to a deliberate architecture. The result is a financial life that generates less wealth than the income would support, not because the income is insufficient, but because the system is absent. Here's the correct sequence and the reasoning behind each step. The foundation phase covers the first 90 days, and it is the least exciting part of the framework. It is also the most important because the decisions made in this phase determine the efficiency of every financial decision that follows it. Step 1, which should be completed in the first week, is a complete financial inventory. Every account you hold, every debt you carry with its current balance and its interest rate, every recurring expense with its monthly cost, every subscription, every insurance premium, every minimum payment. The goal is not to feel good about this inventory or bad about it. The goal is to have an accurate picture of your actual financial position, because you cannot build a rational plan on top of an incomplete understanding of your starting point. Most people have never done this exercise fully and are operating with significant gaps in their awareness of their own financial situation. A decision made with incomplete information is not a rational decision, regardless of how carefully it's made. Step 2, which should be completed in weeks 2 and 3, is debt sequencing. Not all debt is equal, and not all debt should be treated with equal urgency. The mathematically correct approach to existing debt, absent any other considerations, is to rank your debts by interest rate from highest to lowest and direct every dollar of discretionary income toward eliminating the highest rate debt first while making minimum payments on all others. This is called the avalanche method, and it minimizes the total interest you pay over the life of your debt obligations. The most important caveat to this sequence is the employer match. If your employer offers matching contributions to a retirement account up to a certain percentage of your salary, Capturing that full match takes priority over debt elimination above the match threshold and below it. An employer match is an immediate 100% return on the matched dollars before those dollars are invested in anything. No debt elimination strategy produces a comparable guaranteed return. If your employer matches 50% of contributions up to 6% of your salary, you contribute 6% before directing any additional dollars toward debt. Because the 50% immediate return on that 6% cannot be replicated by any alternative use of those dollars. Above the employer match threshold, high-interest consumer debt, meaning credit cards and personal loans with rates above approximately 10%, should be eliminated before investing additional dollars in taxable accounts or low-yield savings. The guaranteed return from eliminating 18% credit card debt exceeds the expected return from virtually any investment available to a retail investor with no risk. Treating debt elimination in this category as an investment in disguise, one with a guaranteed double-digit return, changes the psychology of paying it down, from sacrifice to strategy. Step 3, which should be in place by the end of the first 90 days, is the automated savings rate. This is the single most impactful structural change available to anyone trying to build wealth, and its impact comes entirely from the automation, not from the amount. The amount matters, but the automation is what makes the amount sustainable over 12 months rather than 3. The target savings rate for this framework is 20 to 30% of gross income. On a $50,000 annual income, 20% is $10,000 per year, or approximately $830 per month. On a $75,000 income, 20% is $15,000 per year. On a $100,000 income, 20% is $20,000 per year. These numbers feel significant because they are significant. Reaching a 20% savings rate from a starting point of near zero requires real changes to spending patterns. It requires making deliberate decisions about housing costs, transportation costs, food costs, and discretionary spending that are different from the decisions most people are currently making. It is not comfortable. It is also not impossible for someone earning $50,000 or more who has not previously been deliberate about their financial behavior. The automation piece is critical. The savings transfer must happen on the same day the paycheck arrives before the money is visible in the checking account where spending decisions are made. Money that is automatically moved to a savings or investment account before it is seen is money that the brain never registers as available for spending. The lifestyle calibrates to what remains in the checking account. This is the same mechanism that causes lifestyle inflation when income rises. It can be deliberately engineered to cause lifestyle stability when savings rate rises instead. After the first 90 days, the middle phase of the framework covers months 4 through 8 and is focused on deploying the accumulating savings capital with maximum tax efficiency. The correct sequence for deploying investable savings is as follows. First, ensure the employer match is being fully captured as described. Second, if you are eligible for a health savings account through a high-deductible health plan, maximize your HSA contribution before any other investment account. The HSA is the most tax-advantaged account in the American Tax Code. Contributions are tax-deductible, growth is tax-free, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are tax-free. The triple tax advantage available through no other account structure makes it the first priority for investable dollars after the employer match is captured. Third, contribute to a Roth IRA up to the annual contribution limit if your income falls within the eligibility range. The Roth IRA allows your investments to grow tax-free and be withdrawn tax-free in retirement. For someone in the early or middle stages of their career who expects their income and therefore their tax rate to rise over time, the Roth structure is almost always superior to the traditional structure because you pay taxes now at a lower rate rather than in retirement at a potentially higher rate. Fourth, return to the 401k and increase contributions beyond the match threshold up to the annual maximum if your budget allows. The tax deduction on traditional 401k contributions reduces your current tax liability, which effectively subsidizes your retirement savings at your marginal tax rate. At a 22% federal marginal rate Every dollar contributed to a traditional 401k costs you 78 cents because the government absorbs 22 cents that would otherwise have gone to taxes. Fifth, after tax-advantaged accounts are maximized, additional savings belong in a taxable brokerage account invested in low-cost, broadly diversified index funds. The taxable account does not have the tax advantages of the retirement accounts, but it has no contribution limits, no withdrawal restrictions, and no penalties for accessing the money before retirement age. It is the flexible accumulation vehicle that bridges the gap between your tax-advantaged saving capacity and your total savings rate. The sequencing of these accounts is not a matter of preference or opinion. It is a matter of mathematical optimization. Every dollar contributed to a tax-advantaged account before a taxable account generates a better after-tax outcome over time. Departing from the sequence does not feel consequential in the moment. Over decades, the cumulative difference is substantial. Now let us address the most important question in this framework, which is the gap between what the savings rate alone produces and the $100,000 target. On a $50,000 gross income with a 20% savings rate, you are directing $10,000 per year towards savings and investment. That gap is closed by two mechanisms working together. The first mechanism is income growth. A year of maximum financial intentionality is not just a year of saving more. It is a year of reduced financial stress, clearer thinking, better sleep, and typically better performance in the activities that determine income. The research on the relationship between financial stress and cognitive performance, and between cognitive performance and career outcomes, is well established. Removing the constant background anxiety of financial instability frees cognitive and emotional bandwidth that can be redirected toward the work that generates income. This is not a guarantee of a raise or promotion. It is a real variable that correlates with better career outcomes in ways that are difficult to quantify, but consistent in the research. The second mechanism is active side income, not passive income. Not the income while you sleep version of side income that requires years of asset building to produce. Active side income generated from skills you already possess, applied in contexts outside your primary employment, in exchange for money. The most reliable sources of meaningful side income are skills that someone will pay a professional rate for, skills that you have developed through your career, or education or experience, applied to problems that exist outside your primary employer. Consulting in your area of expertise. Freelancing in a skill your employer uses but does not exclusively require. Service businesses that address genuine local needs. Contract work in your professional field for companies that cannot afford or do not need a full-time equivalent. These are not glamorous descriptions. They are reliable descriptions. The side income opportunities that consistently produce results are almost always built on existing capabilities applied in new contexts, not on learning new capabilities from scratch in the hope that someone will pay for them. An additional $1,000 to $2,000 per month in active side income directed entirely toward debt elimination or investment rather than lifestyle expansion creates the mathematical conditions under which $100,000 in net worth growth in 12 months becomes achievable for someone in the right income range. Combined with a 20 to 30% savings rate from primary income, the combined accumulation rate approaches or exceeds the target within the 12-month window. The final phase of the framework covers months 7 through 12 and is characterized by a shift in the psychological experience of the process. By this point, the automated systems are established and running without requiring ongoing decisions. The debt reduction is producing visible results in the form of declining balances and freed cash flow. The investment accounts are accumulating. The side income stream, if established in months 4 through 6, is becoming more efficient as the early friction of building something new gives way to the smoother operation of something that has found its footing. The compounding that has been happening invisibly in the first half of the year begins to produce numbers that are visible and motivating. The net worth calculation, which was difficult to look at in month 1, has become something to check with anticipation rather than dread. This psychological shift is not incidental to the framework. It is structural. The architecture of the plan is designed to produce early wins that are small but visible, creating momentum that builds toward larger wins that sustain the behavior through the later months when the initial motivation of a new plan has faded and consistency is what matters. Month 12 ends with a review, not just of the numbers, though the numbers matter. A review of what worked, what required adjustment, where the system held, and where it required manual intervention, and what the framework looks like for year 2 based on everything learned in year 1. The first year of deliberate wealth building is the hardest. The systems are new, the habits are forming, the results are not yet large enough to be motivating on their own. The second year is different. The systems are established, the habits are automatic, the results are visible. The compounding is beginning to produce numbers that exceed what the contributions alone would explain. $100,000 in net worth growth in 12 months is not a universal promise. It is a specific outcome achievable by a specific category of person, following a specific sequence of decisions with a specific level of commitment over a specific period of time. The variables are income, savings rate, debt position, side income capacity, and consistency. If the variables are right and the consistency holds, the math works. If any of the variables are significantly different from the assumptions in this framework, the timeline adjusts accordingly. What does not adjust is the sequence. The order of operations is the same regardless of income level or starting position. The employer match first, the high interest debt next, the automated savings rate immediately, the tax advantaged accounts in the correct sequence, the taxable account after, the active side income alongside, the consistency throughout. The $100,000 target is a number chosen because it represents a threshold. Below it, the financial decisions you make feel like they're about survival and stability. Above it, they begin to feel like they're about trajectory and possibility. The psychological shift that happens when a person crosses that threshold, when they have built something real and visible and substantial from nothing, is as important as the financial shift. It changes what feels possible. It changes the decisions that get made. It changes the arc of everything that follows. The math is available to you. The sequence is available to you. The tools are available to you. The only variable that is not available to you in advance is the consistency over 12 months. That one is entirely yours. Next week on Quiet Rich, I'm covering the optimization system, the specific metrics that tell you which of your financial decisions are working and which ones need to change, and how to build a monthly review practice that continuously improves your results without requiring significant time or complexity. Subscribe so you do not miss it. New videos every Tuesday and Friday.